So our first speaker of the afternoon is Chris Pett, who is Head of Sector Programmes at the Open Data Institute. He's basically going to be looking or explaining to us around terms which we use so frequently now in our sector around data and insight. Hopefully busting a few myths, but also showing how some businesses are really embracing those terms and practice in order to effectively make decisions around their business. But not everybody is yet. So why is that? And I'm really looking forward to hearing from Chris, just to get more of a sense of, we don't all have to be experts in this field, but actually knowing a little bit more will enable us to all have more confident conversations back in our organisations, particularly if you're needing to influence the senior leaders, or if you are one yourself, knowing more about what your insight leads might be talking about, as was the case with me. We did a lot of greater sport around data and insight, but I wasn't really in the know, perhaps as much as I should, based on the conversation that we'd had prior to this. So please welcome Chris to the stage. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So my name's Chris Pett. I work with the Open Data Institutes. I'm the head of sector programmes, and the sport and physical activity sector is the first major sector that we've approached as an organisation. Traditionally, up until we started working in sport and physical activity, we were working with governments and ministries, working at top level, big scale, on trying to build a trustworthy open data institute for public benefit to help people make better decisions in their lives. What we found is, by working in a specific sector, we've learned just how hard and important the on-the-ground implementation is of these big ideas, and also how difficult it is for organisations who are just trying to get through their regular campaign programme of activity to engage with concepts that can be quite tricky to get on top of, like open data, but how important it is for them and their strategic future for them to do that piece of engagement work. So it's been a fantastic experience for me to be working in the sport and physical activity sector. We're funded by Sport England, and our programme has lasted from, I think we started at the beginning of 2016. We're just coming up to the end of our second phase of work at the end of 2018, and then we'll be looking to go beyond that to really build a sustainable open data ecosystem in the sports sector going forward. But what I'm going to do is explain to you a little bit about what that all means and what it means practically for your organisations. So just to position ourselves in terms of the problem that we're all trying to solve, this is how we see it, and this is how we're aligned with Sport England's strategy in thinking about this. We're looking at the middle of the market, what Sport England call the mass market of people who are somewhat active. They're doing more than about half an hour of moderate activity a week. But they're not doing the full 150 minutes in the Chief Medical Officer's guidelines. But it's important to note, and this comes out of the insights that we've seen, not only from Sport England, but from lots of other organisations as well, that actually we're all transitioning across these different parts of the spectrum, from inactive through to active. And at different points in my life, I've been at different stages here. I'm actually right in the middle right now, not quite doing enough exercise, wishing I could do more. And there are all sorts of reasons why I find in my life that there are barriers to doing the amount of physical activity which I know I should be doing. I think a lot of other people share that experience. So we're not thinking that all you've got to do is move somebody over the line to 150 minutes of physical activity, find some whizzy data solution that's going to do that, and then bingo, we've done our job. It's not like that. People will constantly be drifting back and forward. And I think that really we've got a much stickier, trickier behaviour change challenge on our hands collectively as a sector. But it's not about data and technology for its own sake. Opening up data for organisations is not an end in itself. The end is to help people to become more active and to sustainably lead more active lifestyles. But this is why data is an issue here. So when we want to help people get active, when we're trying to lead people through this behaviour change process, we do a pretty good job of providing activities and classes. I'm just aware of the amount of unused inventory, unused space there is in the sector, and we start to see some data around insights of all of the different facilities which could be used and aren't used to their full extent. Going back to my previous slide, the 5-odd million people who could be doing more with that space. So yeah, we're providing activities and classes, and there's now an increasing number of apps online services which are beginning to catch up with extremely well-established sectors like transportation through Transport for London's open data and all of the amazing apps and services that have come from the opening up of that backbone of data around transport opportunities, or the travel industry, that amazing backbone of openly shared data about flight times and destinations, which makes it easy for you to book a flight and a train to get you from this point here to Los Angeles, with a few clicks of a button on your smartphone. There are starting to be some applications and services in the sport and physical activity sector which come close to that level of user experience, that level of digital expectation that customers now have, but we're only at the early stages. But then there's this middle piece, there's this green square in the middle, which is helping people to find the choices that are going to help them to lead a more active life. That's the bit that open data is trying to address. And a way to look at that is open opportunity data is data about the future. It's about opportunities that nobody's taken yet. And if they don't know about them, they never will take them. Those opportunities will just go unused. So, apologies for the really complex diagram, but when you get these slides afterwards, hopefully you'll find an opportunity to jump into this and take a look at it. This is really what drives our work in the Open Active Initiative. We've got this theory of change, and the theory of change looks a bit complicated here, but it's really quite simple, which is that if you look at this yellow box in the middle of the slide, large and small organisations are openly sharing data about activity opportunities using standards. And what that means is we don't have a single central database of all the opportunities in the country held in some bunker somewhere. That doesn't work. It never works, that kind of approach. And the Open Data Institute is always advocating for an open ecosystem of data publishers who can push their data to where it's needed, but in a standardized way, using machine-readable formats, which makes it easy for a computer as well as a human to see what that information is, to know where it could go to help somebody make a better decision about their own real life. So if we can get large and small organizations openly sharing that data, then these two red boxes above in the theory of change diagram, which is large-scale data users and campaigns providing personalized opportunity solutions, what that means is somebody saying, okay, this is my age, this is my level of ability, this is my location, this is my mood. What can I do today to be more active? What can I do next week? Those kind of personalised opportunity solutions, which generally speaking you don't get when you go onto your local leisure centre's website and look up the PDF that tells you what time the squash courts are open. And then secondly, startups and SMEs, which is the, as you're looking at it, the right-hand red box. Startups and SMEs create disruptive digital solutions. There's an appetite in the sector, there's an appetite from Sport England to encourage disruption in the sector. There are a lot of new organisations, quite a few of them are in the room today actually, organisations I've just met for the first time and some I know well, who are doing things differently and who want to do things differently in the sector to help people lead more active lives and to create new kinds of business models as well as solutions which are going to be really exciting but potentially threatening to some of the incumbents as well. And it's important for those incumbents to engage with the startups and SMEs, come together and find solutions for mutual benefit rather than seeing their futures as in some way opposed. So we've got this feedback loop of demand, reach and referrals and support between the people who've got the data, what I think of as data publishers, and the people who want to make that data available to end customers, which I think of as data users. And the data users want the data, they want open data about activity opportunities because they know what to do with that. Think of an app like Hoop, for example, which helps parents to find things to do for their children at the weekend. They would love to know that there's a cricket session just around the corner, the taster session for the local cricket club, but they might not know that unless it's been pushed out to them. So there's a user there who wants that data, wants to take use of it, and then there's an organisation like the local cricket club, supported by the ECB, no doubt, who might be able to make that data available. And we have been working with the ECB this year on this, to push that data to those kind of apps and make it available to them so that that child can then play their first game of cricket and hopefully develop a really healthy relationship with at least one sport. So that feedback loop of demand for data, provision of data, more demand, more provision, that sustainable ecosystem of organisations sharing data openly, data about the future, it's not commercial, it's not personal, stuff that people already want to push out into the public domain, but they can do much more efficiently in this way. That is exactly the kind of ecosystem that we're trying to create through the Open Active initiative. So on the one side, you've got these organisations who are motivating people to get more active. You've got the Ordnance Survey, you've got 1U, Change for Life, run by Public Health England, who we've been working with closely this year. This Girl Can, who we're just starting to work with ahead of their next campaign to help women get more active. Organisations like Airbnb, who can provide information about local opportunities for physical activity for people who are travelling around the country. Organisations like Vitality, who've got a network of both insurance services and also health and physical activity services. Get Active, which I'll mention in a bit more detail, is a great case study in a moment. National charities like Parkinson's, who are able to put specific campaigns targeted at specific types of long-term conditions and wrap those campaigns around provision of personalised physical activity to the potential recipients of those campaigns' benefits. Startups like My Local Pitch. There's an awful lot of organisations who are going to do the motivating for the end users. And then there are a lot of organisations providing the opportunities. So, for example, Fusion, British Cycling, British Triathlon went online with their open data in the summer, in June, and went through quite a short and painless process of going from chief executive right down to programme level, saying, okay, we want go try data made available to people, and we don't even know who's going to find that information and become interested in the sport for the first time. We're just going to get it out there. But since we're working with Go Try Data, which is the campaign that they run for people who might be trying their first triathlon, let's get it all out there. Let's get all of the data about competitions and sessions in triathlon out there at the same time. Might as well do it like that. And getting that kind of top-level support from the CEO all the way down through the IT team and the program-level operations team in a joined-up way, pushing their data open, was, as I understand it, having spoken with them, a fairly painless experience, but it took very, very joined-up thinking at organisation level. So that the data publishers creating opportunities and the data users who are creating those motivations for end customers, end users, to get more active, need that ecosystem in the middle to exchange the data and get more active. And it's happening. It's making, I think, what we could call early progress of that ecosystem starting to take shape now. So these are, you recognise some of the logos in the top part of this slide. You've got the logos of those organisations that are currently publishing open activity data. Some of them are quite large organisations that are able to move quite large chunks of use of facilities. And then some other organisations who are implementing and shortly to be publishing their data openly, who are working closely with the team at the Open Data Institute to get advice and facilitation around technically how might they go about making that progress work. So I think that we're starting to see the foundations of a data publishing infrastructure being put in place. But it's not an end in itself. So where does that information go? How might it be used? And how does it engage with other kinds of data as well? I've been having some quite interesting conversations at the conference today with organisations who don't deal with open data, but do deal with data about customers, insights about real people and how they've used physical activity opportunities in the past. And I think that the opportunity that's coming for the sector is connecting those kind of data sets about past use of facilities with data about the future, with open data. And what that gives you is a look forward to what is the inventory of activities that's out there for future use, and then look back to how are people actually taking part in physical activity, what is their experience like in the immediate past and the long-term past, and start to see trends and patterns. And then looking forward again to see, well, do we have the right kind of activities going on? Should that space be a squash court, or should it be a Zumba room or a spin class? How is the pattern of coaching and volunteering matching what we think the future requirements of our customers are going to be? You can get that when you've got this ecosystem of open data opportunities to look forward and see what's going to be possible at national scale potentially, and then look back to see what was the experience of people taking part. So I think that it's worth bearing in mind that with the advent of GDPR during this year and the way that many organisations really for the first time engaged with data as a strategic chief executive board level issue in their organisations, they may have started to realise that that's a harbinger of the role of data as part of their organisational strategy, their commercial strategy, their revenue in the future, and it's not something that can go ignored. So understanding the role that open data and shared data, participation data, and personal data at the other end of the spectrum are going to interact and work together to create new kinds of value for the sector is really important. I think I've got one pitch today to try and give the audience, particularly those members of the audience who are working at board level, who are directors, who are chief executives, who are sitting on the boards of organisations, is don't leave this to your junior staff members. Don't step away from this and wait for somebody else to fix it for you. The reason I say that is because when I work with organisations, when I see organisations where the senior executive leadership of the organisation has engaged with understanding and being able to talk with confidence about the role of data and different kinds of data in the organisational strategy, those organisations move really quickly, they save an awful lot of money, and they're able to play a role in shaping the future direction of the whole sector. And those organisations that resist and leave it to junior members of staff have a lot of junior people experiencing frustration about not being able to implement and enact the kind of change that they want to see in the sector, in their organisation, in their future careers. So I think that we do need to make a bargain with our staff members that we're going to understand and address data as an issue and the opportunity of data in the sport and physical activity sector as an issue, as a strategic issue, and speak with confidence and lead on it in our strategies. And if we can do that, then there's a groundswell of other people in our organisations and other organisations beyond that are going to meet that challenge and help and support us to accomplish that vision. So when I'm talking about open data, just for clarity, we're talking about data like what time is a session? How much does it cost? Where is it? Particularly in a sports centre, exactly where is it? If it's in a park, what's the geolocation of that spot where the running club meets? What's the availability? Are there any places left in this session? Can you describe it for me in a way that means something to me as an end user? What are the facilities like? Where will I get changed? Is it suitable for people of my level of ability and experience? Some images that actually connect with the kind of people you want to be using that particular activity, which for me means, please, no more pictures of people with amazing abs and, super toned. I find that incredibly off-putting. I know lots of other people do as well. I want to see people like me doing something I can put my trust in, so I invest in that. That's data as well. Gender restrictions, if that's appropriate. Age ranges. And doing this in a standardised way, so that when I say age ranges children, I don't just mean all children, but I mean a specific range of ages which an app like Hoop can use to direct parents of children of particular age categories to the right activity for them, so they don't get put off when their 5-year-old turns up at a children's exercise that actually aimed at 15-year-olds. And difficulty level as well, so that people who are trying something for the first time can make sure they're in the right room for that all-important first session when they're really worried about how it's going to go down, who they're going to meet. They've got body confidence issues probably. They've definitely got issues about whether they're going to really be able to engage and enjoy with this thing, which they're giving up their time to do. Having that difficulty level really plainly shown to people so they're in the right room at the right time is really important. Are we running out of time? Okay, I've only got a couple more slides. So it doesn't include personal data about your customers and members. There's a GDPR issue with open data. And if there's personal data creeping into the information which you've got, then work with us, work with the standards to make sure that doesn't happen, because the intention is that there won't be a GDPR issue with publishing open data. So I think that's probably a good place to finish it. I've made my pitch. The Open Data Institute, the Open Active team within the Open Data Institute are there to work with your organisation and help you to understand how to publish your data openly, what the benefits are both commercially for you as an organisation and also for the sector at large. Please do get in touch with me after this, or get in touch with us, and we'd love to work with you more closely on going on this journey together. Thank you very much.